other day, we called this less active family that I'd never heard of, and he answered in German, and I answered in German. I'm like, here is a missionary for the Church of Jesus Christ, and he was like, who is this? I'm like, a missionary for the Church of Jesus Christ, and he's like, Jesus Christ, and I'm like, no, I'm his missionary.
Hello and welcome back to our third Church of Jesus Christ Youth Podcast. I'm your most important and very good looking, also very humble host, Kaleb Frome. Joining me is my co host, Travis Duggins. And I just want to add, though I pretend to be the most important, Travis is the reason we are able to make this work. Without his editing and recording, this would be a very different sounding and looking show, and not in a good way. In fact, I think the only reason that they keep me around is for my good looks. But today we have a very special guest, my own flesh and blood, my sister. I can't say her first name, but Sister Frome is joining us. Could you introduce yourself?
Hello, youth of Montana and whoever else may be listening. My name is Frome, as Kaleb said. I am currently in Vienna, Austria right now, serving a mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I have I've been in Vienna for almost 6 months, and before that I was serving in Switzerland, and so in total I've been on my mission for almost 14 months, so a good little chunk.
Hey,
It's a pleasure to be here.
Wow.
that's awesome.
As usual, we have some questions. Travis, could you start us out?
Sure. How's it going over there in Austria?
In Austria, it's actually going really good. So I'm serving it's called the Alpine German Speaking Mission. So it covers Germany. So you're right. Covers Germany, part of Switzerland, or not. So it covers part of Germany, part of Switzerland, and then all of Austria. And so it's been kind of
Okay.
exciting with the Rona. Is that what we're calling on the show?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, of course.
As the cool kids say. So it's been kind of exciting with the Rona because it affects our mission a lot because we're dealing with 3 different countries, and each country deals with it differently. They all set out
Oh.
different guidelines and things. And so, for example, my friends who are still serving in Germany right now, they have different like rules on the Rona than we do in Austria. And so it's been kind of interesting to hear from them. Like we're still in the same mission, but we have different rules. And so in Austria, last we heard, as missionaries, we don't get a lot of updates, which is kind of annoying. Like we get it from
Yeah.
members, which we've gotten some crazy updates because we have like old ladies in our ward who get on Facebook, and you cannot believe everything you read on Facebook. They do, and so they'll like. One of them, her name is Ingrid. As you can imagine, Ingrid has a lot of exciting things to tell us. And so she called us once and was like, have you guys heard how bad it's getting in America? They're burying people in Central Park. And I was like, what?
What?
Since when have it gotten so bad? But we have no way to like
Oh
look
my
up the news.
gosh.
So I was like, I guess I just have to believe her. And so anyway, sorry, but back to the question at hand. It's going pretty good in Austria. Actually, Austria is one of the best countries we've heard. They've been able to control it a lot because they went into really strict quarantine. And so you weren't allowed to go outside. Well, you could go outside for walks and stuff, but like they went really strict. And
Oh,
so
really?
it's been getting a lot better, and it's shown that the cases are starting to go down. So they're
That's
starting to
good.
open like little stores again and stuff. So yeah, progress is being made. We're excited.
Yay.
Yay.
Yeah. So how long have you been in quarantine?
Ooh, good question. Today is day 37, so almost 40 days.
Wow. They
40
did
Yeah,
start
days.
it.
it's been a hot minute now.
But
We're
you
getting
you
pretty
said
used
that
to this quarantine life.
you said that restrictions are starting to be lifted slightly, or so you're not
Yeah,
exactly.
so like for example, we would be allowed now because we weren't supposed to take any public transportation, which is how we get anywhere. And so now we would be allowed to take it to like the church if we wanted to, or we could go to like little stores or something. But that's about it. So not a lot has been lifted yet,
Ah,
but we're
well,
getting there.
Uh,
We'll slowly get better.
I have another question for you on a little bit of a different topic. I was going to ask, what are your thoughts about President Nelson and his knowledge of the virus before it even took place?
Ooh, that is a good question. I'm like, is it a coincidence that our prophet is a master surgeon and master in the medical field as a medical pandemic is taking over the world? I don't think so. That's all I'm
Yeah,
saying.
absolutely.
Um, so I mean, I think for sure he had inspired revelation. They're just the things that he's already been preparing us with. I mean, I've
Mm-hmm.
listened to one of your podcasts already, and I know you mentioned like the whole home-centered like
Yeah.
curriculum and stuff. Like, I don't think any of that is a coincidence. I think for sure he knew that there was things in the future, and there probably will continue to be things in the future. So it just shows that we trust in him. We really will be prepared for whatever is coming.
That's a really good answer.
Thank
Wow, that's a
Absolutely.
lot to think about.
It shows that this church truly is led by God.
you.
You know, he's not
Exactly. Yeah.
coming up with that stuff from nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I agree.
So I have a question. How has your missionary work and the way you teach the gospel changed?
Ooh, that is a good question. It has changed a lot. And at first it was really hard because in Europe, as you can imagine, people are kind of not always open to the gospel. There's a lot of people who are already pretty set in their religious ways. You get a lot of Catholics, a lot of Muslims, actually, believe it or not. And so there's a lot of people who don't want to learn more about God, really. And so
Hmm.
that makes missionary work a little harder here anyway. And so what we would usually do is spend hours on the street during the week, at least 12 hours, where we're just going and stopping people on the street. So we'll walk down the street, we'll be like, hello, excuse me, can we talk for a minute about faith or something like that? And as you can imagine, I get some good responses and a lot of not so good responses.
Yeah.
And so that is how we would normally do our work. But of course, nobody wants a stranger talking to them on the street during this time, especially. They usually don't
Oh,
want that
yeah.
anyway, but especially during this time, they're a little standoffish about that. And so we have now reverted or converted now to fully being um, online missionaries. So like
Mm.
over WhatsApp and stuff. So we talk a lot. Like anybody we've taught during this time will be over like video call, which has been really cool. And we also do a lot more member work now because normally members like have harder times like finding time to let the missionaries come over. They think they have to feed us, and so it's just a big ordeal. But now we can just be like, hey, can we call and like share a little spiritual thought with you? And so we can talk to a lot more members in a day because we don't have to count in the travel time and stuff. So we'll just call and have a little video call. And so that's the biggest way our work has changed. It's just that we are doing a lot more over video, and that's been really cool. Actually, one more thing, and then I'll stop talking. But it's been cool because there's been a lot of people on our phone that. So when we find people on the street that are interested, we try to get their phone number, their WhatsApp number, and then we keep in contact with them. But a lot of them kind of go unnoticed, or like either they're forgotten about, or if they don't really have time to meet, then we just kind of forget about them. But since right now we can't meet with anyone anyway, and a lot of these people have more time, they have suddenly had more time to meet with us. So we've talked to people that because I've been here since October in Vienna, and there's been people I've been trying to meet with since I got here that have finally had time to talk on the phone, and we finally have gotten to know them and to actually tell them why missionaries even stopped them on the street, whoever, like whenever long ago, and now we can talk to them and be like, yes, this is what we actually do, and this is how we find hope during these Rona days. And so it's been way cool. It's opened a lot of new doors that we normally wouldn't have had.
Wow, that's amazing. Being able to
Kind
contact
of a
people
positive
before. I've got a question again. How has not being able to go out and serve during these hard times really affect your life?
Ooh, that's a good question. I would say it hasn't affected my life personally as much as others. Like, because I think everybody handles these kind of things differently, and so there's definitely some missionaries I know who have been much more affected by it than me. Like for me, not being able to go and stop people on the street was not the hardest thing in the world. I'm like, it wasn't really my favorite thing to do all the time anyway. So I'm like, I'm fine with writing some people on WhatsApp. But then I have other friends who are like, man, this is what I came to do. I want to be on the street every day. And so it's been really hard for some of them just because you do feel like you're not doing quite as much when you don't even leave your apartment. You're like, man, I'm being kind of lazy, or I'm not
Yeah.
using my talents the way I could. I'm not stopping as many people, I'm not talking to as many people. And so it can get you, like, I definitely we've dealt with this a lot now in our mission, where just people kind of get down sometimes just because they feel like they're not doing as much as they could be. In reality, it is hard to do more now just because we can't reach people quite the same way, and so you have to be really creative in ways. So it has changed how we do missionary work, and it is hard to stay motivated sometimes too, especially when you're just kind of doing the same thing every single day. But I don't know, you look for the positives and you make it work. It's been okay for me.
Nice.
I have another question. What has strengthened your testimony most during your service?
During my like whole time on a mission or
Yeah,
during this
yeah, just during your whole
my
missionary
whole
time.
mission? Ooh, I have to think about the last 14 months now. Um, I think what strengthened my testimony the most is seeing how much happiness the gospel actually can bring you, because you hear that your whole life. Like, you boys have both heard that your whole life. Like, when you live the commandments, you're happier. And you're like, well, I don't know if that's actually true though, because my friends who don't live the commandments look a lot happier than I do right now. And so that was my mindset growing up, and it still was. Like, even when I got into my mission, there was a lot of things where I still wasn't really sure about it, and I was like, what am I even doing here? But I toughed it out and I stayed, and through that time I really learned how to trust in the Lord, and I learned to love the commandments for what they are, and to be like, okay, when I do follow these commandments, blessings come with them. And so I think what my testimony has really grown on is seeing how much the Lord does bless you when you follow the commandments, and how much happier you are, because these last 14 months have been really hard. There's hard times on a mission where you're like, man, I don't want to do this anymore. I just want to go home and hang out in a hammock and listen to music, chill or vibe or whatever you guys do.
Yeah,
And but then during these times though, I've been happier than I've ever been in my whole life, because I'm serving, I'm thinking of others more than myself, and being more like Jesus Christ. I'm focusing so much on him, and it has just made me so happy. Like, I wouldn't trade these 14 months for anything. I'm so happy that I
Wow.
decided to come, and I'm happy that my testimony is now where it is, because it wouldn't have been otherwise.
Yeah, I definitely plan on going on my mission. It's something I really look forward to. Um, I do got to
Yay,
save
I'm
though.
so glad. Yes, it's kind of expensive.
Yeah.
I know.
15 grand I think it's what it's about to be when I'm about to go.
Yeah, the best investment for your life. You got to think of it like an
Yeah,
investment.
yeah.
It's worth it,
That's
but
exactly
it's
what I was
hard in the
you're
moment.
thinking.
I know.
getting plenty in return.
Absolutely.
Exactly. You get so many blessings. Yeah.
Whether it be joy or whatever you need in life.
Exactly. You are a wise man.
Okay, so what are your thoughts on being prepared for what's to come?
Ooh, good question. I mean, like you guys already mentioned, following the prophet, I think, is the best way we can be prepared, because the prophet, since the beginning, have been saying, have a food storage,
Oh yeah.
have your testimony in check, learn how to do this home-centered learning. And if you're really following the prophets, then you're going to be prepared. I think that's the number one thing. So
Mhm.
be prepared, follow the prophet, and you'll be ready to go with whatever comes at you in life.
Yeah.
Exactly. Our prophet's not gonna let us
I agree.
No.
down. I have a very important question. Now I want you to answer this honestly. Give it a lot of
Okay.
thought, but honestly, I think you should already know the answer immediately. It should actually be an easy question. Who is your favorite family member?
Ooh. I'm gonna take a rain check on that question. I prefer to have a happy family to come back to.
Come on,
Depends on who I'm talking to.
know who? I think we all know who.
Okay, you're right. Callum is my favorite.
Ah,
Ah, that's funny.
no.
You got it out of me.
Well,
Yeah.
I think that's all we need. I'm
No,
gonna just
shoot.
hang up right now.
Well, it's been fun. Bye.
Thank you. Bye. No. Yeah.
How our relationship gets ruined right here. Have it live for all of you.
um, can you just walk us through your daily routine a little bit?
Ooh, You guys got good questions on here. I need to come here more often.
Yeah.
Our daily routine. Well, of course, it starts at 6:30 a.m. You wake up with the birds, greet the
Wow.
day, break
So
the
even
day.
while you're in quarantine, they still have you
Yeah,
waking up
there
at
is no
6:30
rest for the wicked. We are waking up early.
There's no
And
rest
so
for
we
the
wake up
wicked.
at 6:30. We do our daily planning. Daily planning is kind of weird now because we just plan for staying inside all day, but it works. We're like, hey, at this time we're gonna call this person, then we'll have lunch, then we'll study the scriptures. So then we plan, which is actually really nice because then every moment of the day is planned. So there's never
Hmm.
times where we're just sitting there like, oh, what are we gonna do now? We're so bored because we always have something planned, even if it's something weird, but something's always planned. And then we do sport. We take sport very serious. So then we do 30 minutes of exercising. We either go running or we do some kind of workout video or something, or we stretch if we're feeling real spicy. We spend 30 minutes stretching on the
Ooh.
ground. I don't know if that counts for much, but we feel sportly when we do it. And then we all get ready. And then we usually study, like we do personal study for an hour or an hour and a half in the morning, like from 9 to 10:30. And then we do companionship studies. So then we discuss with our companion what we learn and we plan for our appointments during the day. And then we have lunch. And then we just call lots of people. We usually call like 3 or 4 people a day. Well, maybe not always that many, maybe 2, 3, depends on the day. And then we'll go on a walk or another run. We have an hour and a half extra during this time that we get to go exercise. So then we usually go on a nice walk. And then yeah, we do dinner. We study German. That's always exciting. We text lots of people. It's been kind of exciting lately. We've been calling less active members, which has been fun because it's always, you never know who's going to answer. So sometimes it's kind of scary and I get like nervous. I'm like, oh. Like the other day, we called this less active family that I'd never heard of. And like he answered in German and I answered in German. I'm like, here is a missionary for the Church of Jesus Christ. And he was like, who is this? I'm like, a missionary for the Church of Jesus Christ. And he's like, Jesus Christ? And I'm like, no, I'm his missionary. I
Yeah.
thought it was funny, but he didn't want to talk anymore. He's like, I'm not interested. And I'm like, no, dang it. Said the wrong
Till
thing.
Jesus Christ himself calls me, I'm
I
not
know. I'm like,
interested.
you better come back to church, boy. Just kidding. But anyway, so yeah, we stay busy. We just do random things. We've been making a lot of videos lately because we were teaching like a couple families. So we'd make like Book of Mormon videos where we
Mm,
dress up as like Samuel the Lamanite and film a funny video to send to them. So we find different ways to stay busy and fun.
wow, it's definitely different.
Yeah,
Definitely different.
it is.
Well, I'm dry out of questions. What about you, Caleb?
I got one more I
All
can throw
right.
on you.
Okay.
What is your advice to stay positive during these times?
Ooh. Ooh, I love this question.
Very wise.
Ooh. Okay, let me think. Advice
I
to
think
stay
of you like a
positive.
mother hen.
Exactly. I feel like a mother hen. Come here, little chickies. I would say to really focus on what you do have and what you're getting out of this time. Because my favorite saying in life, if I was a tattooing woman, I would tattoo it on myself. So I'm not going to. Maybe like fake tattoo. I don't know. But I love the phrase, everything happens for a reason, because
Hmm.
that really helps me remember that like God is in control of everything that happens, and anything that happens to your life happens for a reason, even if it's something bad. We're like, hey, well, what's the reason for this? And so that's been my biggest help in staying positive, because I can think about that and I can be like, well, there's a reason I was called to serve in this mission at this time. And I don't know if you guys know this, but Europe is the last place that is still out in the world serving missions. Like all other missions are in America now. Like they all had to go home.
Huh.
And so we're like, I'm very lucky. I'm in one of the last missions that is still like getting to serve and didn't have to come home. So I'm like, well, there's obviously a reason for that. Why was I called at this time to be a missionary during this pandemic and get to be an apartment center missionary? Like, there's a reason for that. And so that helps me stay positive, because I'm like, there's so much I can learn from this. And also, not only what I can learn, but oh, where was I going with this? I had a very deep thought. Oh, there's new opportunities that this brings as well. Like, there's pros for everything, and there's definitely been, like I was saying, these new people we've gotten to talk to, because normally they wouldn't have time, but now they have time. Like, there's there's just good. It's easy to find. I've liked it. We've had more time to cook now. I'm learning how to cook a little. Like my future husband will be very grateful, I'm sure, that I had these Rona days. He's like, dang, now she can cook. What a blessing. And so there's just little things that like help me stay positive. I'm like, yeah, just more time. There's just, I don't know, just thinking of the things that make me happy during this time helps me stay positive. That was a really long answer, but
But it was a good one.
I love that answer though.
That was a good one.
Focus on all the positive things.
thank you, thank you.
Well,
Well, that's all the questions I have. I
um,
think we've just about hit 20 minutes. So.
yeah. Do you want me to do
This
the
one,
outro?
time flies when you're having
Uh,
fun. This has been so fun, guys. Thank you.
Because I want to mention a couple
Thank you
things for the
so much
outro.
for coming on, and hit us with the outro, Travis.
All right. We would love it if you viewers would suggest a couple questions to ask for our next guest in the comment section below. We will be releasing podcasts every Monday through Friday at 3 p.m. sharp, so don't forget to put that on your calendar. And as always, subscribe.